If you're thinking about getting into model railroading or you're already an addict, boy, do we have a project for you. In this episode, the logging camp gets finished, and I did it my way. Starting right now. Welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. On this show, we celebrate regular people building their model railroads, and we have a ton of fun doing it, and we hang out as a community. It's a great time. And this is just one of 3 shows that we do. On Tuesday mornings, we have the Sidetracked episodes coming out. On Thursday mornings, we have It's My Railroad coming out, and now our new show on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. live. Track Smack, hanging out with the community, discussing what you want to talk about on model railroads. A lot going on here at It's My Railroad. So if you haven't subscribed, you might as well do it now, and then click that little bell icon so you can catch future videos. Now, just before we head into the hobby room, got someone I want to introduce you to. This, my friends, is Water Effects, made by our good friends at Woodland Scenics. Now, we're going to use this today to sort of finish off that creek that we worked on last week. Now, I'm not exactly certain what this stuff's made of. I know that you squirt it out. It looks like sort of like white glue, and it comes out kind of pasty. It dries opaque, and you can use it to take any sort of flat body of water you have and trouble it or give it ripples or waves. And I've even seen it used to make waterfalls, which is kind of what we're going to be doing today. So this is the stuff to use. I've used it before on the gorge. I really liked it, so we're going to use it again on the creek today. But the rest of this stuff we'll tell you when we get into the hobby room right now. Hey, welcome back to the hobby room, to the Brown Smith Railroad and our logging camp project in progress. As you know, this is kind of an exciting day because I think we will be able to finish the logging camp after 26 or so episodes. When we left off last week, we just poured the water in the creek, and you guys didn't get to see what it looked like when I was done. That's because I'm into cliffhangers, and I wanted you to come back. Anyway, we're going to look at that today, see how it turned out. There's one more little tiny addition I want to make to it that probably no one's ever going to see but me, but it'll make me sleep better at night. And then, so I'm going to show you that, and then I'd like to go over to the logging camp proper for a second, show you kind of some changes that I'm making to the alignment of some things, and then we're just going to get right to building the rest of this thing out. So without further ado, why don't we grab that camera and just come right over here. Right, first of all, now that the water is dried, we can just take a quick look at the how it came out in this sort of extreme close-up. You see how the water looks like it's kind of trickling down around through the rocks and those quote-unquote reeds that we put in there under the log bridge, and then back up around these reeds. Anyway, so far I'm really liking the way it's turning out, but there's just one other thing that I want to add to it, and it's going to be right in here. So I added that little tree in on the side here because this is kind of bland going in through there. But for right now, I think I'll just pull it back out so we can get a better view. And then, you know, if you let your imagination run with you, that looks like water coming down there, at least in my opinion it does. But what it seems to be missing is something that indicates some kind of velocity to the water. It's just like it's sort of just seeping down the hill. What I think I'm going to do is take a product called Water Effects and go in here and dab it on through here, kind of to roughen that water up. I would really like it to hit here, kind of a rapid kind of thing, and then this little hole right here, I'd like to fill that up so it's kind of pooling and flowing over this rock and down into here. And then once all that dries, we'll go ahead and we'll show you how to dry brush that with some white paint, kind of make it look frothy. A lot of you guys have seen something like this before, but I'll just kind of show you how I do it. Alright, so I've got just a little bit on the brush, and the whole idea is to go through and just sort of brush this on like this. To sort of will disturb some of the smoothness of that water coming down there. Something like that. Actually, that looks pretty cool. When we paint that white, it'll look just like that. Wouldn't that be amazing? Get a little bit more, and like I said, right down in here, really want to have it kind of ruffled up here. I think I'm also going to then put some kind of down through here a little bit, and then it's mellowing out here. It's just a little trickling creek, not the roaring rapids. So a little bit more of it maybe, and let's put it here. Actually, I think once I put white paint on that, I think it's going to look pretty good. I hadn't expected to see like a frothy torrent coming down here, but I'm kind of liking it, actually. You know, it works for me, boys and girls. I just get lucky sometimes. All right, well, I think we'll let that dry up, and then we'll go through with the white paint and just dab it on there enough to make it look like we got some moving water. Anyway, that's how I do it. We'll see how it turns out when we're done. Okay, like I was saying, there's a couple changes up here in the logging camp we need to make, because the expansion to the second deck of the railroad is going to kind of displace where the Shay used to live down in Switch Junction. So we're going to move the Shay up here. It lives up here unless it's taking cars down. So to do that, I'm taking the engine servicing depot that it has, which basically it's a water tank and the guy loading coal up here. And I decided to put it up here because this is where the Shay would maybe come in to get some water and some coal for the work it's doing up here. So because I do that, we're going to have to make another change, because the horses were going to be corralled there, but that's clearly not going to work anymore. So what I did is I've moved the little tack room / blacksmith shop out here, and I'm going to build me a little corral that'll sit right in here somewhere, maybe in this open area, something like that. I've already got the logs cut for it. We're going to have to see how it comes together. And we'll put the horsies there, and then maybe clean some of this brush out to make it look like a little horsey trail, or I don't know, something like that. We're going to have to ask our visitors when they come by to just sort of use their imagination a little bit, because I really don't know how the horses get from here to the log loading ramp, and I don't know how the people who live over in the logging camp get over here without jumping over those tracks.
All right, so anyway, let's move over to the hobby table and scratch build ourselves a horse corral. All right, so I went ahead and I made myself a whole bunch of logs out of toothpicks, but unlike some of the other logs that we've made in the past, I knew I wanted these to be smaller, almost like branches, but you know, there's only so much we can do with a toothpick. So what I do is I scrape it down, and I do it in such a way that it leaves some flatter areas where it's not this cylindrical deal. And then of course we go through and do like we've done with other logs, take the hobby saw and just sort of scrape along there to sort of give it a barky kind of look. So because the logs are so small, and frankly I was in a really big hurry, I just decided to do something, or at least try something a little unorthodox. I took some water and I mixed in a little bit of black chalk paint to kind of make a stain. And then I just went ahead and I just dumped all them toothpicks in there. Boom, stained toothpicks. When I was done with that, I sort of poured that little mixture, a little concoction, through a paper towel that I had in a styrofoam cup to strain it out, and then, you know, let them dry off a little bit. You can see when we're done that even though it's kind of a bizarre way of doing it, the color difference between a naked toothpick and a stained toothpick is remarkable. I'm really happy with it. Later on, when the corral's assembled, we might do just a little bit more weathering on it. And now you can just sort of watch me take all these little pieces and glue them together into the corral fence configuration.
All right, so anyway, this is what my little corral looks like now. I put a little rope right there to hold the door closed, the gates closed, but it's kind of a pointless detail. I can't really see it when I put it up on the layout. But anyway, it makes me feel better knowing it's there. And you'll notice the weathering on this is somewhat different than what I've done in the rest of the logging camp. That's because I think this was put together at a different time from slightly different materials. I don't know. I just want it to look different, so it does. And I also took some time to just touch up the weathering here on the little tack room kind of shed dealio that we're going to set up there. And so these two things kind of together kind of looking like that is how they're going to look. So I'll tell you what, instead of doing this, why don't we just take them up and put them on the layout and maybe glue down some horsies, okay? Okay, since we're going to end up putting the corral and the little tack shack up here, I went ahead and I did some real logging stuff. I cleared some brush. I made a place that's kind of be where horses and people have been walking around, and then I made this trail that basically goes off to nowhere. Hopefully by the time viewers' eyes get back here, they're not going to care anymore. That doesn't go anywhere. So anyway, I did the same thing that you've seen me do before. I put some dirt down, I put some glue in it, and then when it was done, I've actually put some loose dirt, as you can see there, down in there to kind of give it that sort of dark dirt here, lighter dirt kind of feel. So one of the first things we'll do is maybe go back and put the little tack shed back in where I think I want it. Kind of right here. And then, of course, the horsey corral. Put it right, kind of like that. Anyway, I think it looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, while we're here, I think we should put some kind of like little food supply down in here for the horsies, and then we'll glue a couple of them down, maybe glue one over here and put his reins around that post or something to make him look like he's getting ready to get shod or something. Let's grab the horses. I took some of that same stuff I used to make the reeds out of, that green fiber stuff, and cut it up really kind of small. And this isn't the best camera angle to see this, so when the time comes, I'll see if I can get a better shot of it here. Oh, there we go. I think we can have a horse eating that stuff. Okay, so I grabbed 2 horses, a toothpick, some glue, and some tweezers. I'm just going to use the toothpick to put a little glue on the bottom of the horsey. And look at that. Horsey is eating. I love it. Let's get the other horse and put him in there too. Let's have that horse looking out here at people viewing the model railroad, shall we? Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The horsies are finally back in the logging camp, so we can drag some logs up out of the forest. Got the tack shack back. Hey, let's get started with the deck and all that stuff over at the actual logging camp proper. Well, if you guys go all the way back to the second episode of It's My Railroad, the demolition phase, you're going to remember this little guy right here. This is the old deck that the warehouse and stuff used to sit on, and I saved it, and I've had it all this time. I lost one little piece of it though, so what I ended up doing is I just sort of spliced those on right there. I got toothpicks on the back, kind of bridging it together, super glued it together. Kind of looks like that. And then what I think I want to do here is I want to take the old warehouse or receiving thing or whatever this thing is, and I want to glue it down on there. And because other than that, it looks pretty good. So I think what we should do is go through and put some super glue on this thing just to hold it down. And then we have our little deck glued to our warehouse. We can probably clean this edge up over here. Just run the hobby knife down along it gently. Okay, there we go. All cleaned off. Now we need to get this thing obviously to be elevated up to the height of a box car, I guess. So I went through and made me a whole bunch of logs, just like I did in episode 8. There's a card above my head, link in the description if you want to go take a look at that. The only difference is I didn't spend quite as much time detailing these out because they're not going to be seen all that much. But here's my idea for how I think this should be going together. We're going to have logs. They're going to be cut shorter than this, obviously. And the spacing will be different. Here, we'll just put one out here for the second. All right, I think the little love shack here needs to go just like that on those logs. And so we've got some framing underneath this deck that holds, you know, the people from falling through. The deck's all boogered up, which is why I really like it. And then we need these sticks going all the way through. So let's take a dimension and see how long this structure actually is. It appears to be 56 feet. So 56 at 10 feet is 5. Let's cut 6 of these the length that we need for starters. And so the length that we need, it appears, is, let's say, 26 feet. 26 scale feet. And I'm going to cut 6 of these. All right, so I got 6 of them cut. There's the, there we go. There's the naked underbelly of the structure. And for me, I want these spaced about 10 feet, but the reality of this situation is this thing doesn't allow for that. So what I'll tend to do is maybe glue one on here, right at the end, and glue one on at this end. Whoa, 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 whoa. Find the middle and glue one on, and then split that difference and glue one on, and see how it looks. And that's actually way further than 10 feet, so my little technique's not going to work. So I decided to cheat a little bit. We're going to go 11 feet between those, because when I space them all out like that, it comes out looking equidistant, and 11 feet is what the hillbillies that built this camp decided to use. So 11 feet it is. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through and glue these on about every 11 feet, and then we'll come back and take a look at how that looks. Okay, and there you go. 11 feet separation-ish. It's not exact, but then again, that's how this logging camp goes, because everyone's in a hurry to do logging or go down to the saloon at Switch Junction. Okay, so now what I'll do, I think we'll make the pieces these logs sit on that make it actually cribbing, something like that. And I'm just going to eyeball this. And for starters, we'll get 2 of these. So here's the deal, folks. Over at the actual logging camp, if I start building that cribbing coming down from here, it's going to eventually sit down on the railroad ties and those wooden rails that we put down there, the sleepers. So this has got to be, the cribbing needs to get built up from back here, is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go through and glue them on like that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now with those glued on, kind of have this look going here. And then what we'll end up doing is we'll just continue to put like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of cribbing just to support this on its way up, to its correct height. So I'll go through and do that, and we'll take a look at how it looks. All right, so you can see I went through and I put all the cribbing on the rest of the structures up here. Even the little cabin guys have their cribbing on them, and I think I like them positioned about like this. And of course the servicing facility will still go in like right here somewhere like that. I kind of like it. Now what I want to do though is, I've seen pictures of these logging camps that have like a walkway that goes from here to the railroad ties. Here, 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 and here, and here. So I'm going to go through right now. I'm going to make me some little planks to put there just out of some wood. And we'll glue it right to the railroad ties. And I guess after that, it's a matter of putting in all the remaining ground cover, and we'll see what we're looking at. So our last detail before we put the structures back on and call this thing done. Back in here, you can see I put that water effect stuff on there really, really thick, and 2 days later, it's still not fully dry. It may never be fully dry. So note to self, don't get so excited to make your video that you put way too much of that crap on there. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead anyway, and I'm going to dry brush some white chalk paint back in here to help simulate water flowing down there and hitting some rocks or something on its way down. And the thing is with this stuff, really, if you put on too much paint, you're gonna have problems. And just gently dry brushing that on there. All right, well, you know, there it is. That is the way that is going to look. All that remains is to stuff my little bush back in the side of the mountain. And there it is. I love it. Let's move on. All right, so I went ahead and added some details to a little warehouse thing we got here. I got like this guy leaning on a crate. I got this guy carrying a box, a couple of barrels of some, I don't know, who knows, it was whiskey probably. Some kind of miscellaneous supplies in there. A little guy here that, when there's a locomotive, is telling the locomotive what to do with himself. So kind of like all of those details. And again, there's the whole structure complex installed. And then if we just go ahead and grab our engine depot one last time, we'll just put it in there and call that a day. That's kind of how it looks from out here. And then the final details here over at the corral, we've got the couple of horses, we got another guy carrying a box, we got some guy doing something with the horse hanging out there with something getting done on him. And we're back in the studio. And there you go. It was 27 weeks of videos to get that logging camp done. But I have to tell you, super happy with the way this came out. It was worth it, and I've enjoyed going through this experience with all of you regular people out there building your model railroads. So listen, this is the kind of stuff we do here on Sidetracked, It's My Railroad, and on our live show, Track Smack. So if you haven't subscribed, you might as well just do it now, and then make sure you like and share this video with somebody. And don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and now Instagram on It's My Railroad. But other than that, I really had a good time hanging out with you guys today. And again, my name is Steve Brown. Rail on, my friends.